Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Being Conscious. We have been talking about different planets and different energies and how you and me can harmonize the energies of these different planets. As I mentioned, this channel is going to be all about enhancing the consciousness of a human being. Because remember, the whole purpose, what differentiates us between human beings and all the other species in this planet is this word called consciousness. The fact that you and me can hear, can experience reality through different lenses, through different prisms of intellectualization, through this act of knowing that you yourself is this consciousness. Animals can't do that. And this is a reason why being human is being absolutely super and special. Now let's talk about this particular planet Jupiter. Now Jupiter as a planet is so important because remember, understand the fact that you're breathing, the fact that you're able to take a breath is all governed by this planet. The fact that you and me can speak, you and me got up at this morning to experience reality the way it is because of the blessing of this planet. The oxygen, the pran-vayu in your system, the circulation system, the energy flow in your system, all comes under the umbrella, all comes under the domain of this planet. That's how important this planet is, this planet of wisdom, this planet of higher awareness is. Now, the reason I want to bring about and emphasize, probably this video is going to be longer, and the reason the length of this video is going to be longer is because this planet deserves all the attention, and it is a pivotal planet in all study of consciousness because this planet is responsible for higher consciousness. I have this book with me, The Autobiography of a Yogi, which was recommended by Steve Jobs, Virat Kohli, and probably a lot of elites have gone through this book. And this book talks about how a particular spiritual practice, we won't be going into the details of that spiritual practice, but essentially all spiritual methods are aimed towards enhancing the consciousness. And when the fire of consciousness rises, anything which is ego driven, which is fear, hate, anger, is burned in the consciousness of self-realization. Now, no matter where you are, in which field of life, each human being is craving for freedom, and the ultimate freedom is brought about through this mentality of self-realization, through these higher states of consciousness. Now, let's go deeper and understand what Jupiter represents. As I mentioned, Jupiter is the life force. Jupiter is also called Jiv Tattva, meaning how much vibrant and how much exuberant you can perform in a given day is represented by this planet Jupiter. And if you are someone who has a great Jupiter, you will have a lot of wisdom and great maturity beyond your years. Now you might be someone who is only 12 years or 15 years of age, but your wisdom and your maturity, when you speak, will feel like you are speaking to someone who is as old as 80 years. That's the magic of this planet. Now, talking about the technical details, in the whole field of this divine science of consciousness, Jupiter is given ownership or karakatva of multiple houses. The reason it is given so much of high importance is, imagine Jupiter to be a person, right? So Jupiter is someone who gives you guidance in life, what is right and what is wrong. If you have an afflicted Jupiter, the difference between right and wrong, the lines are blurred. The lines are blurred to such an extent that you don't realize what is right and what is wrong. But when your Jupiter is top-notch, every action you take is guided through the divine wisdom. The fact that you are looking at this channel or you are interested in this kind of content also implies that your Jupiter is performing well. Because even interest in higher wisdom is only a blessing of this planet. Without the blessing of this planet, this interest in higher wisdom, this interest in divine knowledge, in divine laws will never come about. You would be probably scrolling in social media and engaging yourself in mindless entertainment. But you chose to view this channel, you chose to consume this content. This implies that somewhere your Jupiter is blessing you. Now, Jupiter also talks about long term thinking, it also talks about having a long term game plan for life. If you have a good Jupiter, you will always be surrounded by great mentors, by people who will not misguide you. And if you have an afflicted Jupiter, you will be misguided to all kinds of things which will ultimately lead to your own destruction. Now, I am reminded of the famous scene in the great epic Mahabharata where there was one bunch of people who were guided by Lord Krishna himself, and there was another set of people who seemed mightier than the other group in terms of numbers, but ultimately the divine wisdom was the victorious one. So it's not really about how many people you're surrounded with, but it's about the right kind of people whom you're surrounded with. The quality always matters than quantity. And when you have a great Jupiter, when you have an impeccable Jupiter, that means you choose quality over quantity. And if you have a Rahu-oriented person, you will see how I can gain more things, how I can have more social validation. But a Jupiter person is authentic, is simple. He will not show off his prowess. Though this person would hold a lot of wisdom, though this person would hold a lot of knowledge, but he will never showcase that. He will be absolutely authentic and simple to the core. And that's what makes him attractive. Remember, the people, the gurus in this world who have such a massive following, these people don't have the clinging energy where they are desperately trying to find someone. They radiate peace, a warmth, which makes them a center of attention, a center of attraction. That is the gravitational pull of Guru Tattva, of Jupiter. And when your Jupiter is extremely powerful, there is a natural pull within you. Because you are not like the Rahu-oriented person. We'll come to the Rahu-oriented person in subsequent videos. But the point I'm trying to drive here is, when you are a Jupiter-oriented wisdom, you operate through divine wisdom. Every action of your day is guided towards divinity. While you are a Rahu-oriented person, you are always thinking, what can I put in the social media to get more followers? How I can chase my validation goals? Remember, people who chase validation, people who are always looking for approval, they have low self-confidence. The reason they have more craving validation is because somewhere down the line, deep within, they feel that if I am not validated by the world, I am not good enough. This sense of worthiness, this feeling of unworthiness haunts them. And because of that unworthiness, they go in the society and try to put themselves in a pedestal. They try to show their skills, or they try to show their self in such a way that their ego gets a boost. And as a Jupiter person, he will probably be reading his books, right? He will probably be consuming content which uplift his consciousness. He might be listening to Premanand Maharaj, and he might be reading such books like this. And how do you know that a particular activity is raising your consciousness or it is lowering your consciousness? The answer lies in your breath. Do you know that a tortoise breathes 4 times in a minute as opposed to a monkey who breathes a lot haphazardly in a minute? The reason I brought up breath is, whenever you are doing any activity and your breath is deeper, calmer, that means that activity is going to lead you to a higher state of consciousness. But when you are engaging yourself in activities which are of lower consciousness, your breath is automatically haphazard. Have you ever observed that whenever you are in fear or anger, just observe your breath. The breath are shallow. Your breath is in a state of constant restlessness. It's shallow, it's never deep. But if you look at a young kid, right? It's a 3-month kid. You see how relaxed they are. You see how their tummy comes up when they are breathing. There is a very important reason why they say that children are close to divinity, because they are tuned with nature, with Mother Nature. And the more you are still within, the more the stillness, the feeling of inner calm is incorporated into your consciousness, the more the divine planet Jupiter blesses you. And the more abundance is what you attract. But if you are not someone who has this consciousness, and if you are someone who's always behind sense gratification, well, my friend, you need to work on your Jupiter. Because we are all seeking liberation, and Jupiter is also a karaka of liberation. Now, you might be wondering, I don't think I seek liberation. I really want to be in the material world. I want to chase those material desires. I want to go after those goals. But why do I need liberation? I'm happy in this material world. The fact is that you are chasing those material goals to feel a certain sense of freedom. You are chasing those things, those objects, those particular titles, the need for validation is because you feel a certain sense of freedom. We are all chasing security some way or the other. Let me give you a very realistic example. Say we are all going for a job, right? We get a certain amount of salary credited to our bank account every month, and through that salary we are making a living. Through that salary we are basically having everything which material world promises us to offer. Now what is happening because of that money? We are able to have certain amount of freedom. Imagine a fact that you are not able to work, right? Let's say an unfortunate incident unfolded in your life, and due to that you were not able to work, and you had to become dependent on someone else to take care of your day-to-day needs. Now that is bondage, that is slavery. And because of that bondage and because of that slavery, you need to have your freedom restricted, because now you need to constantly be at the whims and fancies of the person who is taking care of your day-to-day needs. Now the fact I'm trying to convey here is, either through, if you eat your food through like this or you eat your food like this, right? We are all chasing liberation. Whether you might belong to the spiritual school of thought or you might belong to the material school of thought, it doesn't really matter, because we are constantly chasing that feeling of freedom, that feeling of liberation. So the point is, what are the means through which you are seeking that? Now you might, even a drug addict is searching for liberation, right? When he gets that dose of dopamine, when he gets that feeling of liberation, he is also chasing that. But the difference between a Jupiter-oriented and a Rahu-oriented person is a Jupiter-oriented person is seeking liberation through the right means, whereas a Rahu-oriented person is seeking liberation through negative means. Through means which will probably give him short-term pleasure, but towards the end of the journey, he will have to go back, right? He will always feel less satisfied. The reason he is less satisfied is because he is chasing happiness outside, whereas it is within. Ramana Maharishi said this so beautifully in the quote where he said, the problem with happiness is that we are chasing it outside while the source lies within. So it's very important to take the campus, to shift our identity, to shift our focus from outside to within. Because in this day and age of constant comparison, in this day and age of constant validation seeking, all of us lead empty lives. But the people who go within, the people who are constantly working on uplifting their consciousness, those are the folks who get the taste of freedom. Those are the folks who get the taste of real bliss. And without Jupiter, you can't experience real bliss. Now, what are the ways in which we can inculcate and harmonize the energies of this planet? One of the best way to harmonize the energy of this planet is to engage yourself in yogic practices and breathing techniques. The more yogic practices and breathing techniques you surround yourself with, your consciousness rises to the next level. Now, there is a map of consciousness. There is a map which was designed by David Hawkins, where he talks about the range of emotions. At the lower spectrum of the broadband, we have emotions like fear, anger, and as we go higher in the spectrum of emotions or consciousness, we have emotions like love and peace. And the higher you vibrate in this zone of consciousness, the more your Jupiter improves. Because higher your zone of consciousness, higher is your vibration, and higher would be an aura. Now, this is the whole crux of this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, where he talks about how, in his different chapters of life, how he was initiated into this phenomenal practice called Kriya Yoga and how he transformed his life, how he burned his karmas, right? You can only burn the seeds of your karma through the fire of your consciousness. And through the fire of your consciousness, you can completely burn the roots of each and every karma within you. Now, this is the power of consciousness. And when you practice breathing, what really happens is your parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system is channeled in such a way that all your different limbic activations, right? So we are normally operating to fight and flight response, where we are constantly triggered towards different situations in life. So those calm down. And now you operate more through the parasympathetic system, which causes a lot of healing and a lot of power within you. Now, this is one powerful way to enhance the power of Jupiter. Another way of enhancing the power of Jupiter is to go through these kind of books, right? This is one of the phenomenal books, but this is a heavy read. So if you're someone who's new to reading, I wouldn't recommend this book, because this is a very heavy read and it might make you feel that you don't understand much, especially if you are not someone who is not used to the habit of reading. But if you are someone who's an avid reader, this is a phenomenal book you can start with. Another book is, if you are someone who has just started this habit of reading, you can definitely look into books like, there is a book called The Stillness Speaks, The Power of Now. All these books are great, right? Especially for people who are not amazing at understanding or comprehending the content.